Hello. I think I'm live. If you would let me know in the chat if I am or not. I'm obviously still uh, doing these lives from my phone at the moment because I'm in a little bitty cabin way out in the middle of nowhere in western Wyoming. Soon I plan on being somewhere where I can set up my full podcast equipment and not have to do this from my phone. For any of you who may have watched my live from yesterday, it was on the news that President Trump has granted a full unconditional pardon to a man named Ross Ulbricht. And I've had some time to collect myself. Lisa Emery, good morning, Caleb. Lisa's live. Got two Lisas here. Chai Chai says hello. Joseph likes arcades. Hello, Caleb. I'm doing great. Hello from Vancouver, Lisa Emery. All right, thanks. Um, Before I get started, I just want to let y'all know that if the Ross Ulbricht story is confusing to you, you're not alone. It is still, to this day, confusing to me. And also, I am going to very likely be talking about the Ross Ulbricht story for a very long time, primarily because it affected me so much, especially when I got the news yesterday about President Trump issuing that full pardon for Ross. I've had some time to. I've been mostly talking about this a little bit here, but mostly on my Facebook page. And I've had some time to absorb the news and see what's going on and see the reaction of so many people. A lot of people don't even know who Ross is. And that doesn't surprise me because, again, it is very confusing to me. And I'm just going to try to do my part in explaining what I do know. I don't claim to be an expert on Ross's story any more than I claim to be an expert on Bitcoin, yet I've been aware of both of the stories for pretty much since inception. Um, there's been a lot of hate. I've received a lot of hate, and that shouldn't surprise me, but it kind of still does. It shouldn't surprise me how much I got, but it kind of still does. It's merely for the fact that I pointed out how grateful I am that Ross is free and home with his mother and giving credit where credit is due. Now, there's obviously a lot of cogs in this, and I'm going to try, if you are confused about it, I'm going to try to put together or make it, just tell the story the best that I understand it and how it affected me because his mother Lynn, whom I don't know personally, I've had fortunately I've been able to speak to her one time on the phone about 8 years ago, right before I got custody of Blaine. I've chatted with her off and on, but there's a story in that I have to basically confess. A lot of people do not like admitting that they are wrong. And I guess by my nature, I'm like everybody else. I don't like admitting when I'm wrong. I think I'm right and I want to be right. So I don't want to admit when I'm wrong. But a lot of people are wrong about, in my opinion, about all the cogs that had to come together in this miracle that this literal convicted felon, um, Ross Ulbricht, who had been in prison for 11, going on 12 years, who was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years for a first time offender who was a nonviolent offender at that, on one charge essentially of owning and starting and running a website called the Silk Road. I've been giving credit to President Trump for being the only person who had the actual power to unlock that door to that prison and get him out. Nobody else has ever in history had that power except the president. President Biden had that power to do it. He didn't. President Trump, the first time, had the power to do it. He didn't. Um, And I've taken a lot of heat from people who are mad at me saying, "Oh, Caleb is orange pilled. He just loves Orange Man now." I had one person tell me, "You're dead to me." That was their literal word. I thought you were one of us. I thought I liked your story. I guess your ex-wife was right about you. You're an orange man, an orange pillar. And that's simply not the case. I gave credit was due. And it's not all credit to Donald Trump, although it would have never happened no matter how much you or I or Lynn Ulbricht, his mother, or anybody else who's ever talked about Ross. It wouldn't have mattered how much we protested and did anything if there's no way of getting him out. But due to the fact that Donald Trump did do it, I gave him credit, and therefore I'm taking some hate, which is fine. I've been taking hate for a long time for my actions. At the same time, I want to also give credit where credit is due, and this is to some people that I've got some over the years had a lot of beefs with. People that I once knew, or that I used to know personally, and that I have nothing to do with anymore for other reasons. Donald Trump, who, yes, was the man who opened the door to the prison and let Ross out and gave him the full pardon without any restrictions. But, there's nothing else tied to it. He's a free man. But if it wasn't for the actions, and I'm giving credit to where credit is due to some people in organizations that I don't really have a lot to do with anymore because of some personal things that have happened or some stances they have taken. But the story of Ross was mostly kept alive, from my perspective, to the best of my ability that I can see, by the libertarians, by the anarchists, by the voluntarists, of which I, in the past, have fully embraced and been part of that community, both on the good side and the bad. If it wasn't for the libertarians and the anarchists and the voluntarists constantly holding signs, "Free Ross," going on podcasts about Free Ross, if it wasn't for us, and I consider myself part of them to a degree, I still consider myself a libertarian, though I just simply don't associate with a lot of libertarian groups anymore for various reasons that I can get into later. Because again, I'm going to be talking about Ross Ulbricht for very likely a very long time because it's important to me. And there's obviously a lot of confusion. Who's Ross Ulbricht? I heard he was a bad guy. I heard he hired people to assassinate, blah, 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 blah. He wasn't prosecuted for anything except running, and found guilty of anything but running a website called the Silk Road. There's a YouTuber that I follow named Matthew Cratter, and he's a Bitcoin maximalist. He just put out a video today, kind of briefly describing what happened with Ross, and he was showing what the Silk Road used to be. Like you went to in the old days. I never did it because I had little kids, and but you went to silkroad.com or blacknet or whatever it was, and there was a list of items that people would put for sale, many of which were illegal, illicit drugs. The point of the Silk Road was Ross was a libertarian type himself. He saw the damage that the war on drugs, and as much as I disagree with alcohol and most drugs, if between consenting adults, I don't think it's any of my business or anybody else's business. And so he was seeing people having lives ruined, arrested, incarcerated for simply buying weed or something like that. And yes, there were other items for sale on there, including services that are either somewhat illegal or in other cases highly illegal. And I'm trying to have to watch my language because I don't know what I'm allowed to say on some of this stuff, but you can read between the lines. We all kind of know what we're allowed to and not allowed to say. But Ross started the Silk Road, and what it ultimately came down to was people were Basically, there's one famous screenshot of someone bought like a bag of weed for 130 Bitcoin. And Bitcoin back then was, just a few bucks. You're talking, or maybe not even a dollar. I don't know what year it was, but, not a lot of money. What the real reason why he was attacked so hard was Uncle Sam wasn't getting his cut. You could buy weed on the Silk Road and pay for it in Bitcoin and Bitcoin alone. You weren't allowed, he didn't have it set up where you could use dollars or yen or pesos or anything else. You could only use Bitcoin. He saw the value in Bitcoin. And if you haven't been paying attention, if Bitcoin is confusing to you, and it is, it's still confusing to me, though I've been aware of it since inception as well. I was talking about Bitcoin on this channel in 2013 when Parker was taken from me. Though I can link the video later or something maybe, but where was I? Yeah, so Uncle Sam ultimately, well, that's why they got him because he wasn't getting his cut because there's no taxes on it. You trade the Bitcoin, you get the product or the service, and that was essentially what pissed him off. He was railed in the media, and that is back then. People were saying he's the Dread Pirate Roberts, and he hired an assassin to take somebody out, and all these things that the normal mainstream media was pinning on what they just getting away with what they always got away with, they pinned it on Ross. And that's basically what he's thrown in prison for. But back then, and here's the part where I've got kind of a confession of myself. I've been sober for 4.5 years. I've been extremely open about my sobriety for 5 years, my disdain for alcoholism and people that drink alcohol. I'm also very open that back in the day I was an alcoholic, though I am not anymore. And that statement alone just seems to irk so many people. But back when I knew about Ross, my own family was falling apart. I had began drinking. I didn't really start drinking until Parker versus the Man, whenever he was taken from me. I had been a drinker before, but not to that extent. That's when I drank what I say professionally. So back when I was drinking a lot after Parker was taken from me, Ross's story just kept bringing up, getting brought up, and I was trying my best to spread awareness like any other libertarian anarchist at the time was trying to do, and I didn't understand it. And part of the reason was I was a drunk. I couldn't. I was a drunk, and it was pathetic. And I was putting out videos talking about it, and I didn't know what I was talking about. I thought I understood it, but I didn't. And it's just hard for me to talk about because it's confessing, this horrible time in my life when I was a drunk going through all these hardships. I made bad choices. I chose to use alcohol to deal with my problems, and I shouldn't have done it. I was wrong to do it. And as bad as I hate talking about it and admitting it, I find that I must, because if I don't admit that I was wrong, how could I ever move on? And I encourage anyone else that is going through the same thing. If you're wrong about something, just admit you're wrong, and it's okay. The people that are saying that were duped about Ross, they're saying, Caleb, I can't believe you. He's a whatever they're saying he was. He's a bad guy, and they were just duped, and that's part of my anger. My whole life, I've been duped by a woman, duped by political parties, duped by libertarian groups and people within those groups. And I made decisions based on being duped. And once I found out that I was duped, a lot of people, and I know the temptation because I felt it myself, you don't want to admit you're stupid. You don't want to, everyone wants to think that they're undupable. They're so smart. I thought I was intelligent. I think I'm intelligent now to a degree, but I also realize I get duped a lot. I'm gullible by nature, and I'm kind of talking in circles because I don't know how to. It's like I can talk to myself about this, but when I start talking here to other people, I get a little sidetracked. I was trying to talk about the Ross Ulbricht story because I felt sorry for Ross and for his mother, Lynn. Lynn, at the time, and as far as I know, the entire time, the whole 11 years he was in prison, she spent her time going to various conferences, various festivals, be they libertarian or Republican, or I suppose even liberal Democrat. I don't know all the places she went, but I would. We're Facebook friends, and she doesn't post a whole lot there, but other people do that when they meet her. And I would look up occasionally, every few months, every year, ever so often, I'd say, oh, she's at a strange conference talking about Ross. You know, why would she be at a Republican business meeting or whatever it was? And I think to myself, well, that's strange. But, you know, I've always admired her because she wanted to get her son out of prison. She saw the lies that were being spread about him, and she never gave up. The mainstream media was mocking her, trolls online were mocking her, and I could relate to that because people have mocked me back when I was a drunk and going nuts. To a degree, I see why you would people distrust me because I did some drunken things and I'm ashamed of it. That's part of the reason why I'm so adamant about. I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one. Live your life alcohol free because if you don't, you're just asking for trouble. Nobody is stronger than alcohol. I've been accused of being a misogynist. I don't know how many times. And if I'm being honest, I see why. Because I criticize behavior, kind of like George Carlin. He's always criticizing behavior. And then he gets to a punchline and it winds up being a group of people, a particular group of people. But he's mostly just criticizing behavior. And I criticize the behavior of a lot of women, and particularly single moms. So I see how I come across as a misogynist, but in my defense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I am. There's a lot of things that women do that I just completely abhor, but that doesn't mean that I think that all women are bad or stupid or evil or dumb or whatever you want to label me as, and I can prove it. If no, for no other reason, my admiration for Lynn Ulbricht. She spent all these years going to sleep every night knowing that her son was going to be in prison for the rest of his life, knowing the truth and yet seeing the lies that were spread about her son. And year after year after year after year, she just kept going. She kept speaking the truth as she knew it. And look what happened. Lynn was talking about her son with Republicans and Democrats and libertarian anarchists. She was embraced by some. I know people, I don't, like I said, I've never met her personally, but I do have personal friends who do know her. I have talked to them behind the scenes, and I'm aware of a lot of the struggles that she had, and all I can think of is that poor woman. All I can think about it, looking back on my own on my own battles that I was fighting for my kids, I just kept getting hit over and over and over and over and over. And lo and behold, 2017, I won. I got custody of Blaine. I thought my battles were over, but they weren't. The courts screwed up all my paperwork. Big shocker. I was awarded child support, and and at the time, and I still do a little bit to this day. You're a deadbeat because you didn't pay your child support. I was awarded to be paid child support. They screwed up the paperwork. It never got filed right. Even though I won and my child support was supposed to basically stop and I was supposed to receive it, it kept getting racked up at the old rate, and I finally just completely quit paying it. So when someone hears, oh, you quit paying child support, that triggers something in these brain dead people. Oh, he didn't pay child support. He must automatically be a deadbeat dad. And so I had to deal with that for years and years. And only about a year and a half, 2 years ago, did it finally get straightened out after the damage is done. So, anyway, I look up to Lynn for never giving up, and she got uh, Donald Trump. She got the president to sign the full pardon. Had Donald Trump not signed it, Ross would be in prison the rest of his life. Donald Trump was only obviously recently made aware of Ross Ulbricht. How did that happen? Because people like Lynn and the people she talked to, and mostly, and I'm giving credit to the libertarians and the anarchists and the voluntarists, the libertarians were the ones that kept mostly, and from my point of view, mostly kept Ross's story alive. If it wasn't for us talking about it, hashtagging free Ross over and over and over, it would have never gotten out. And now look around. Bitcoin's worth $100,000. The Silk Road, which is the website Ross founded, only accepted Bitcoin. This was back in like 2011, 10 or 11. Did you ever hear of a Republican talking about Bitcoin back then? No. Donald Trump in his first presidency was asked by a reporter, "What do you think about Bitcoin?" And he just crapped all over it. He didn't want anything to do with it. Fast forward to today. What's the biggest group besides the libertarians that are all about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? And yes, there is a difference when talking about it. In the old days, Bitcoins and Litecoins and Ethereum was all grouped into one called crypto. Nowadays, Bitcoin is not considered a crypto, it's considered a commodity. It is the OG crypto, and that's part of why, yet another example of why it's so confusing. So you're mixing two really confusing things, Bitcoin and Ross Ulbricht via the Silk Road, and they're all coming to a head. These two libertarian type people or entities and people being tied together with a New York Democrat, a lifelong world famous New York Democrat named Donald Trump, who is now president of the United States again after losing in between. On day one, it didn't happen until day two. He promised day one. It didn't happen until day two. I myself was getting really impatient. That was a mistake. I was literally counting the hours. All right, he's got 1 hour left. Right, he's been president for 23 and a half hours. He's got 30 minutes left, and we still haven't heard from Ross. I was posting, who else wants to fly to Washington, D.C. to protest because you promised, you promised, you promised. Well, about 12 hours later. So it took about 36 hours or so, roughly 36, 48 hours for Ross to actually walk out of the prison. That was a mistake on my part. I got impatient. I'm learning from that. I don't know. I just got impatient, and I learned something. I shouldn't have gotten so impatient. Um, anyway, my point is, I guess this whole thing is there's two confusing things. Ross Ulbricht's story, which is Bitcoin. Ross started the Silk Road, only allowed Bitcoin to be used. Bitcoin is now worth $100,000. It's about to go up, in my opinion. It's about to go ballistic, in my opinion, because we've got, for the very first time ever, this has never happened, an administration, the Trump administration 2.0, and it's not just Trump, it's the whole administration, it's his whole cabinet, just about everybody owns Bitcoin, is pro Bitcoin. Trump launches his own two shit coins, the Trump coin, the Melania coin. The Bitcoin maxis hate it. I don't think it was the wisest move, but whatever. The president's making money off putting shit coins out, whatever. And I'm in the crypto market myself. That's where most of my investable income is or investable money is in the market. We're just waiting on it to go up. It goes in 4-year cycles. So I understand why people are confused and bitter and mad, but I'm telling you, be open to the idea that you could be wrong. Just because your mama always told you when you're little, you can do anything when you grow up. You're the smartest, brightest. That's what mamas do. They encourage you. They're supposed to do that. In reality, sometimes you're wrong, like I've been wrong. I was wrong to choose that woman to make 4 children with. I was wrong to deal with the problems that she caused our family in the divorce by choosing alcohol. I was wrong to get impatient with Donald Trump when he campaigned on his literal words were, I will free vote for me and I will free Ross on day one. Well, I was counting the minutes. It's been 23 hours and 59 minutes, and Donald Trump's, he's a liar. Maybe I didn't quite say liar, but he still hasn't freed Ross. He promised, he promised, he promised. So looking back, I was wrong to get that impatient. It is the presidency. It just takes time to move and swap over, and I've learned that. On the other hand, I don't think it's wrong to criticize political leaders at all. The only politician I've never criticized is Ron Paul. That's just a whole different story because the man is just gifted from God, and I'm going to be really sad whenever he's gone. But even with Donald Trump, I'm going to continue to objectively, to the best of my ability, watch his policies, watch what he promised, and watch what he does. And I think we're supposed to do that. That doesn't mean I hate him or love him or either one or the other. It means it's sending a signal, Mr. President. You got elected. Apparently, enough people wanted you there, so because we trusted you. Now, we're watching you, and if you don't fulfill what you promised to do, then I think we should call him out on it, just like we should call out any politician. Your people, your senators, congressmen, judges, police. We should call them out. However, when they do the right thing, I think they should be commended for it. People, that's like saying, if you don't discipline your children, they'll turn out crappy, which is true. You have to. But just because you have to get onto them doesn't mean you don't ever reward them whenever they do good, because they're going to be thinking, well, shit, it doesn't matter what I do. You're never ungrateful. They're never going to be happy anyways. So, anyways, I'm in 28 minutes. I'm going to get to some of your comments here. Mirage Frame, help. Chai is being abusive. Tim Cannon, exactly. How am I being abusive? Please explain. Chai's leading proof that Trump drain syndrome is real. Silly kid. Oh, okay. So Chai apparently, and there's been in the comments, talking smack. Okay, let's talk about it. Chai, what are your complaints? I'm saying, okay. Well, Chai claims that he or she is being respectable, and Drew apparently doesn't agree. So Mirage Frame, Chai has been very disrespectful. Okay, tell me how. How has this person been? This is when I wish Dannon was here because she could take care of this real easy while I'm blabbing. Mirage Frame, Caleb, you are an absolute unit. I've heard that expression, but I don't know what that means. I don't know if you're complimenting me or calling me a scumbag. So, Charday Lewis, young lady, you need to email me. And you're right. I do need to cut my hair, Delilah. I don't know that she's going to get that reference. In other words, I'm claiming to be Samson and Delilah, if that's what you're trying to get me to do. So, yeah, Charday, check your email, young lady. Gear Jammer, Chai is still mad because Dems lost. I get it. If your team loses, people get pissed off about it. Brooklyn Calthorpe, hi Caleb, just letting you know I'm not into politics because I'm One, I'm young, and two, I don't understand anything about it, but Trump is a good person. I don't know if he did anything bad. I don't look at news. Well, that's why, in my opinion, everyone starts there, being completely ignorant. When we're born, we're all naked as a jaybird and vulnerable until our mamas raise us and make us strong, and our daddies continue that journey. I would advise you to start watching. You better start knowing what's things are about to start happening even worse, or hopefully not too much worse. But if you're educated about what's going on, whether it's Trump or any of the Congress critters or Putin or anything, if you educate yourself, even within your own life, you'll have a better understanding as to why things are happening, how you can make better choices for yourself. Mirage frame means you are strong looking. Oh, being a unit. Oh, well, I am. I'm not. I'm not too prideful to say or ashamed to say I am. I'm a strong son of a bitch, especially for my age. Trivia milk. Okay, what are we talking about here? We're talking about. I can't go through the whole thing. This will be live in about an hour after I hang up. But we're talking about the relationship between Ross Ulbricht and why his story is important, and Bitcoin, and all the Trump stuff, and Trump giving him a pardon. Cha, I have an open mind as of now. I'm just trying to understand why people think Trump is good. Well, I'm not saying Trump is good. That's not what I said at all. What I said was Trump did a good thing. There's a big difference. He may have done things that people have accused him of in the past. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. But what I'm saying right now, regardless of what your opinion of Trump is, Trump did a good thing by pardoning Ross Ulbricht. I don't particularly care for Joe Biden. I think he's got dementia. I don't think he had any business being there. However, he pardoned like 8,000 people. And I'm sure some of the people that he pardoned, like Dr. Fauci, don't deserve a pardon. And I've got a serious problem with that. But a lot of the people he did pardon were nonviolent drug offenders. They held a bag of weed. As much as I despise weed, I don't think you ought to be put in jail for it. And so, if in fact there were people who Joe Biden pardoned that their only crime was smoking weed, as dumb as I think it is, I don't think it ought to ruin your family and be spending 10 years in prison just for holding a bag of weed. So, in that case, as much as I dislike Joe Biden, he did do a good thing if in fact he did pardon somebody for simply holding one of God's plants. Check my chats if you want. I'm just asking questions. Well, I can't go. I can't go through all of them. The gear jammer. Chai is a sniveling Democrat. That may be so. I don't know. Chai, why is everyone in this chat insulting me for being a Democrat? I've been peaceful and open minded. Okay, if that is in fact the case, then if Chai is a Democrat and simply asking questions, as long as they're not calling people names or whatever, asking questions is a good thing. I literally have that tattoo somewhere. That I literally have that tattoo on my arm. Question everything. Question me. Question your parents. Question the president. Question your congressman. Question the news reporter telling you the news. Ask yourself, does this person have an objective? Who's paying these people? And I'll give you, for instance, back during COVID's, what was the main sponsor of almost everything we saw from 2020 through 2020 for 3 years? When you're watching a primetime newscast, what did it say? Brought to you by Pfizer. 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 That ought to tell you something. So when something is brought to you by Pfizer and you watch newsperson A and newsperson B and newsperson C all saying basically the same thing while being sponsored by Pfizer, chances are they're being paid to promote a narrative. Just question everything. Mirage Frame Caleb, what is better, chicken or steak? Streak, I assume that means steak. I like chicken, I just hardly ever eat it. Brooklyn Calthorpe. Okay, sorry, sir. I didn't know. I'll be looking into Trump. Cool. Look into Trump. Look into JD Vance, his vice president. Maybe JD. There's some things about JD Vance that I'm a little questionable about. I don't fully trust JD Vance. I don't fully trust Trump either. Again, I'm just here to say, give credit where credit is due. He did a good thing by pardoning Ross Ulbricht. Chai Chai, oh, I know, but people in chat were calling him a savior, so I just was wondering why those people think he's good. Okay, well, I've given my reasons why I think he did a good thing. Bula Bear Caleb, so much hate. I got a lot of it. Yeah, I had one person tell me in the comments this morning that I was now dead to them, that my ex wife was apparently right about me. Okay. Balu Bear, you despise weed? Yes, I don't like weed. I've tried it maybe a dozen times in my life. I've tried a few. I've tried gummies for a while. They do to every now and then to put me to sleep. Back then, when I was having, because trouble sleeping is what I've had my whole life. Weirdly enough, I don't have trouble sleeping anymore. I don't need sleep aids. I run my cute little ass off out in the snow all the time, so I don't need it. I just see the behavior of stoners. If you smoke weed day in day out, again, it's your business. I don't care. Doesn't affect me. But typically, and I know there's always exceptions. I know the Olympic guy, Michael Phelps, he's the most decorated Olympian in the world with all those gold medals. A frequent pothead himself. There's always exceptions, but come on, man. Everyone knows the typical stoner. They're they're just it's meant weed just mellows you out. Which I'd rather, there's lots of arguments for smoking weed versus I'd rather people smoke weed than drink alcohol. I just don't like it. It makes my head spin. It's every time I've ever smoked weed, it always does something different. It's unpredictable, and I didn't know if I was going to be loopy or if I was going to be laughing my ass off inappropriately at inappropriate times to inappropriate things. It was just so unpredictable. I've just made my life now where I don't need it any more than I need alcohol or pills or I do like psychedelics. I haven't engaged in psychedelics in probably over a year now, but psychedelics that's a whole different animal. You don't have to do it very often. B says, Dad, Rihanna, I like the stories. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Bula Bear, no. Chai is ruining the chat. They're not real questions. Okay, maybe not. Yeah, Chai. I mean, yeah. Can someone in the chat just tell me why I'm truly trying to just understand? Rihanna for real. Tim Cannon, Coca Cola. Very informative. Bula Bear, no one wants to talk to you. Give up. Be an adult. Let it go. I assume you're talking to Chai Chai there. Bula Bear, please read my message. I'm asking questions and you're being unresponsive to those questions, along with calling me names. So God made a farmer. Chai got the COVID shot. Ouch! Yeah, I got the COVID shot because I didn't want to die. Is that a problem? It depends on who you ask, Chai Chai. If you ask people who believe the news and who typically voted for people that promoted wokeness, then that wouldn't be a problem. If you ask someone like me or even Sade here why it would be a problem to get the COVID shot, we would have a different point of view because there is alternative media out there, people whose voices were constantly being squished, who, and it's out now. You can talk about it now. It's out. They're dangerous. And this isn't me saying this now. It was me, and I agree with it. But the CDC themselves, they're coming out and they're kind of scared. I think because I'm not a COVID shot expert. I just never trusted it. If someone was jumping on me to do this, do this, do this, and pressure me, I don't care what it is. Even if it is good for me, I'm like, why are you pushing me to do something so hard? What's your motive? Mirage Frame, is this stream sponsored by Visor? No, I'm not sponsored by anyone. Tim Cannon, how many times do you work your biceps per week? It just depends. In the last 6 weeks or so I've been here, I haven't hardly worked them at all. They're a little puny at the moment. Um, Back in the 3 years that I was in the gym, I did PPL. That was my schedule. Push, pull, legs. Day one would be push muscles, which would be chest and triceps. Day two would be pull, which would be when you're pulling towards you, back and biceps. And day three would be legs. I would rotate PPL, 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 PPL over and over and over and over and over for about 3 years straight. Bula Bear Chai is just stupid. There's a difference between stupid and ignorant. Stupid means you're shown what's good for you and you don't listen anyways. You intentionally do something that's harmful to yourself. Ignorance is simply not knowing. Maybe Chai just simply didn't know. Maybe Chai didn't know that what propaganda is, or that what they put in these quack scenes is actual poison, and maybe this person just didn't know. I don't know. Bula Bear, this is Hey Chai Chai. Bula Bear, you understand as of now you just keep throwing jabs at me and are disrupting chat. Please just drop it, answer the question. Dislike seems more reasonable. Mirage Frame, is Jason and Candace still together? I cannot discuss that primarily because I don't keep up with them. I don't talk to them. I don't know. But in the case that I did know, I don't think it is appropriate for me to talk about. As much as I dislike both of them, I'm very open about that. But anything that I may or may not know, I just don't think it's appropriate for me to talk about. El Bicholoco, how I'm going to try to say this, Bicholoco Garcia. I probably butchered that. I have a friend of mine that she's developed psychiatric issues because of her abuse of weed. I didn't used to believe that was possible. And I can't tell you how I know that it is a possibility for privacy reasons, not of me, but of this person I know. But I think there's a good chance that there's probably something to that. If you, even a frequent weed smoker will tell you they take tolerance breaks because if you get to where you're just going through a baggie a day or 5 bowls a day, it loses its effect. Kind of the same with alcohol. When you first start drinking, a beer or two used to get me drunk when I was in high school. I only got drunk twice in high school, and it was off like 2 beers. I was hammered. As it progressed, it would take more and more and more and more to get that effect. So, as far as psych issues because of weed, I think there's probably something to that. And I advise anyone, if you are a weed smoker, consider looking into some alternative sources, not just a biased weed uh, Instagram channel or someone who makes a living like Cheech Marin. He's never going to talk about any. If there are any downsides to weed, Cheech Marin is not who you should go to. Cheech and Chong. That's not who you should go to. They're comedians. They make money off promoting weed, which is I have no problem with. I just won't partake myself. Avery Fields, I'm confused. I'm sorry. That's entirely my point of the stream is try to unconfuse. Jack Simino, he doesn't believe in courts or cops. Jack Simino is quoting my ex-wife from the Parker movie. How many of you know that? How many of you caught that? I caught it immediately. Balu Bear, no one came here to educate you. Well, I did. That's what I'm here for. So why hate it? Um, why hate weed? Because I don't want to partake. Why would I? I don't like how it makes me feel. I guess maybe that was a little bit harsh of a word. I don't hate it, just like I'm trying to learn not to hate any human being. I just don't, I'm not going to promote weed. I'm not going to say it's a good idea, although it has some benefits. Again, I'd rather someone, if you got to get messed up, I'd rather you go smoke a bowl than, start delving into alcohol. But I just don't like it. what it does to me. I just don't like the way it makes me feel, so I'm not gonna have anything to do with it. Sylphie Best Girl, why aren't you? Oh, A, aren't you the dad of the 14-year-old who told his mom that's what's up? You must be a young person. I think I'm interpreting that. Yes, I am Parker's daddy, and I told his mother what's up. Chai, chai, chai. Okay, that's fine. Then don't answer the question if you don't want to. I can't make you. Don't disrespect me for asking. I assume you're talking to other people in the chat. Tim Cannon. Good job, Caleb. Thank you, Tim. So God made a farmer. Once again, I have already answered the question, Chai, many times. You refuse to hear it. I'm just going to call you El Garcia, man. I cannot pronounce that first name. So, what was the whole opinion of the Ross dudes that the current White House tenant pardoned? If I'm hearing you correctly, your grammar's a little off, but if I'm hearing you correctly, Donald Trump put out a statement saying, I just got off the phone with the mother of Ross Ulbricht, Lynn, and I've given him a full pardon from, and I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but basically what Donald Trump said was the same type of people that went after Ross Ulbricht and imprisoned him are the same type of people that have been attacking me for the last 4 years that Joe Biden has been president. And this young man was in prison for 2 life sentences plus 40 years, and it's BS. That's basically his reasoning in a nutshell. Best girl, if y'all gonna fight, doing another chat. Yeah, I'm kind of having to skip through some of these. So God made a farmer there, Chai. There's a few Trump's accomplishments. Yeah, again, love the man or hate a man. He did say he wanted to be known as a peacemaker. There's more information coming out almost hourly about disarming and putting weapons down, and the money's being pulled away from these wars. I'm just going for face value. If what these reports are saying is true, the man is de-escalating and the wars appear to be calming down and coming to an end. Whether or not it's real, whether or not that's what's happening, I don't know. There's no way I could know. Dannon, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. I am an anti-war person. I don't want to see war. I understand that there are certain circumstances where countries could or should go to war. It's even in our own Constitution. However, our founding fathers apparently knew that going to war is a big deal because human lives get lost. And if you go to war under false pretenses and then real people with real families wind up dying. So in order for us to go to war, technically, our Congress has to formally declare it. That hasn't happened since, gosh, I don't even know. But maybe the Korean War, maybe World War II. It's been a long time since Congress declared war. Yet the United States has military bases in like 150 countries around the world. There's been my whole entire life, the U.S. has been at war, and yet Congress has never declared war. That's why, or one of the reasons why, I've always loved Dr. Ron Paul. He was a congressman back in the late or mid to late 80s, maybe even early 90s. He was in 3 or 4 different times, not all at one time. He was always mocked for saying, we can't go to war. Well, there's not been the Congress, we've not been presented the evidence. We've not declared we should go to war. These wars that are going on in the Middle East that the United States is right in the middle of and funding and participating, has troops in, we shouldn't even be there. There's going to be this thing called blowback. And he was right. Come to find out, he was mocked back then, but now come to find out he was right. There is blowback. The U.S. got involved in a bunch of crap we shouldn't have been involved with, and people are mad about it. I can see why. Because the assholes that intervened in my business with my children, like Simp Daddy, like the state, jailing me, getting in the middle of my shit, separating me from my children, it made me angry. These people on the other side of the world, they see these bombs coming and they see the people sending them, and they've got USA patches on them. They're like, well, screw you, man. Screw the USA because you just bombed me. That's what blowback is. I think I'm not too far behind on comments. Um, I'm having to skip through some of these. So God made a farmer. I just listened. The accomplishments. Read the chat. My God, you're blind. Okay. Y'all are just arguing, like really arguing with each other. Tim Cannon, I just saw your workout video and you are shredded. Well, thank you. I have a confession, Tim. Since I've been in my little cabin for the last 5 weeks, I have been buying every tub of brownie battered Tillamook ice cream that my little tiny store up the road here supplies, and I've put on just a little bit here. I've put on about 5 pounds of a little fatty fat, but that's okay. I'm still enjoying it. Bula Bear, I'm a combat vet, and weed helps me sleep, mitigates my nightmares. Booze is evil, but I don't hate it. Understand, man? I'm not a combat vet, but I've got PTSD all the same. And if you're using weed, I get it, man. I get it. Again, I'd rather use weed than alcohol. Um, just a suggestion. The longer I live, the more I work out. And now that I've started running's my new thing. I like run like 5 miles a day. I'm in like priding myself and running 2 to 5, sometimes 8 miles a day in this really, really cold environment. It ranges anywhere from minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 10. And the longer I run in it day to day, the better it feels in my lungs. And I sleep like a baby. This is what I was after that whole time. I just wanted to sleep and I couldn't. So, just my 2 cents. Best girl, I'm 17. My fault. Grammar bad. Yes, best girl. I bust balls all the time for poor grammar. The reason I do is not to be a dick, is I want people to be able to communicate more accurately. I'm not a perfect, I don't speak perfect English myself, but in case you hadn't noticed, I mean, look around. The world apparently has a lot of misunderstanding. Somebody might say something, they mean something else, someone hears something different, or in this case, like in this chat, people have said things. Other people might have misinterpreted it because it's chat. That's why I hate arguing with women on chat. It's good to have good grammar because communication is hard enough as is. Why contribute by not typing out what you mean? Brooklyn Calthorpe, Chai Caleb is being nice to all of us. He's a good guy. I've watched him for years. He's both a good guy and a funny person. I am a C minus comedian, Brooklyn. Thank you very much. Danon, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for moderating because it was getting a little wacky there for a minute. Chai, yeah, Brooklyn, I'm talking to other chatters because they were insulting me. Kinley, Noel, Trump, or Kamala? If I was forced to pick between the two, which was apparently the case, I would prefer Trump. Uh, Kamala squeals like a hyena, and she was always cackling about being more woke, and that's when I lost it. I just couldn't stand her. Not to mention, when she was the attorney general for California, she was bragging about the stroke of her pen being able to lock anybody up for anything they want until she got what she wanted. And I think that is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to brag about. So God made a farmer try. There's my battalion and the months I was at the border working with Border Patrol. Oh, Oh, that's speaking of that, he's getting in gear, and they're putting a big blockade down there. Best girl, anybody who's gonna bring the prices of my groceries down with your little cry face. Yes, best girl, that is what is known as inflation. Inflation is when the Federal Reserve increases the money supply dramatically. That's called printing money. When you print more of something of value, the value goes down. For instance, there's a reason handbags from Walmart are so cheap because there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of stores, Walmart stores. They all sell the same general line of handbags. I'm just using handbags for an example because Sade was in the audience. I don't know if she's still there or not. That's why they're cheap. That's why they're inexpensive to buy. On the flip side, if you have a Chanel or a Gucci or I'm not a handbag person. Pick your favorite handbag that is very expensive. They've probably only got a store in Paris and maybe one in London, maybe one in New York City, and maybe one in, I don't know, Tokyo. They've got a very few select stores in very high end areas. They only make so many handbags. But can you imagine if you had your $10,000 Louis Vuitton and you loved it and it was one of a kind and unique, and all of a sudden Louis Vuitton started mass producing and selling the exact same bag that you paid $10,000 for? They started selling the exact bag with Louis Vuitton. Everything is exactly the same, and they started selling them to Walmart stores. What do you think would happen to the price of your handbag when you're walking around town and you see all of a sudden everybody has the exact same handbag that you have? You're no longer unique. They bought their handbag, their Louis Vuitton handbag for 59 bucks at Walmart. What's that going to do to you? You paid $10,000 for it. You worked your whole life to save up for your $10,000 Louis Vuitton. You went and bought it. You're proud of it, and all of a sudden Louis Vuitton decided to sell them in all the same exact bags in Walmart. That's the same thing that's happening with the prices. Everything has gone up because the value, the purchasing power of your dollars is going down. The value isn't going up for I just paid 12 bucks for an 18 pack of eggs. I've never paid, I would probably more than, I don't know, $6 or $7 my whole life. It's not that the price of the eggs went up, the value of my purchasing power, the dollars that I worked my ass off for, went down because they printed more dollars, more dollars. That is entirely the whole point of the GFC, what they call the Great Financial Crisis. If you hear economists talking about that back in 2008, some people just simply call it the bust when everything just went crashing down because there's a movie made about this called The Big Short. These bankers were giving out loans. There's this famous scene in that movie where this stripper she was talking to this reporter guy that was being educated what was going on. She had like 5 different houses because they were just giving out loans for nothing. The value kept going up and up and up, and all of a sudden it popped, and all these houses were became like all the notes were due, and nobody had any money because the purchasing price or the purchasing power of the dollar went down. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off. I went a little too far on that. I think Brooklyn Calthorpe, Chai, don't look down or no. Look, I don't know you. Okay, y'all just arguing. Best girl, Chai, listen, bro. I don't know what's happening, but from what I've seen, your problem is you can't handle people insulting you in line. Please hop off. Brooklyn, plus I'm a teenager. I have autism and Chai. I just want to say whatever has been happening to people. Maybe that's why they're upset. Maybe so. Not arguing, just saying. All right, I'm going to skip some of these. So God Made a Farmer talking to Bula Bear, also a vet, and I used medical marijuana with CBD, and it helps me to sleep as well. The VA was giving me trazodone for sleep, and weed isn't made in a lab, and it has helped so much. Yeah, again, I would much rather, if you're going to do anything, any kind of drug, I'd say weed is better than trazodone. I don't know anything about trazodone. I don't know anything about pills because I don't take pills. I've been around people who have been pill poppers and they act fucking crazy. But again, if you can get off of those pills by getting onto weed, great. However, you can take it to the next step. Start getting to the gym. Start running. If you can't run 5 miles a day, run 50 yards a day. Then work it up to 100 yards. Basically, you run yourself, just run until you have no energy left, and then you will eventually fall asleep. El Garcia, hi Caleb, what you've been through with protecting your children and going through divorce and stuff like that is like going into combat. I believe that. I really do. Of course, we're going to have PTSD after all that. Yeah, and that's again, El Garcia. That's one of the reasons. Another reason that I've always loved Ron Paul. He's always been anti-war. He's not saying there's never a reason to go to war, but if you're going to do it, you better be careful because not only are innocent people killed in wars, those innocent people are sometimes killed by soldiers in those wars who were just following the orders. They were told to do something. That's what they trained y'all to do. And a lot of these guys go over there and they do these things that they're just told to do, not necessarily realizing what they're doing or what the consequences are. And then it is revealed to them that maybe someone died at their hand and that didn't deserve it. That is the shit that causes the PTSD. That is why, and I don't know your exact situation. And I'm not saying I've ever been in combat because I never have, but I know what guilt feels like. I know what making a bad decision and then it being revealed to you how bad your decision was, and it messes you up, man. It does, and I truly feel for you guys that have gone through that. Bullet Bear, we aren't talking about Trump. We're listening to Caleb. Trazodone is horrible. I'll take your word for it. Bullet Bear, if we weren't supposed to ask Caleb questions, why would chat exist? Very good point. Yeah, ask me anything. If I can't answer it, I will. If I can't answer it, I won't answer it. And yes, I used trazodone once. It's awful. Not a good option. See, look, y'all agree on something. That's a good starting point. Y'all can chat about that on why trazodone is so nasty. El Garcia, I'm using dictation. I'm blaming my iPhone for my bad grammar. Uh, we've all done it. Trazodone makes me violent, doesn't work for me. All the more reason to stay away from that crap. Oh man, all the more ration. Bella Bear, inflation only occurs when governments print money. Technically, governments don't print money. The Federal Reserve, which is a private bank, prints the money. And the Treasury, which is part of the government, issues bonds and borrows that money from the Federal Reserve. But point taken, yes. Okay, Billy Air gave me horrible headaches. Best girl, well, they better stop because I'm broke. Aren't we all? Yeah. Ah, yes, the illusion of the dollar. All the more reason, Chai Chai, was why I talk about Bitcoin, and I've been talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin was created after the GFC in 2008, what I was mentioning earlier, what is known as the Great Financial Crisis. They were printing money left and right, devaluing the dollar. A man by the name of, well, it might have been a woman or it might have been a group, we don't know, but an entity known as Satoshi Nakamoto is allegedly the person or people who created Bitcoin. It is a hard money. It's a digital store of value. That's the reason they call it digital gold, because it's really hard to find. The only way you can make it is you have to mine it, meaning you have to work. There's no such thing, and I mean this literally. There is no such thing as a counterfeit Bitcoin. That's not the, it was set up that way on purpose, where you've got computers, nodes, all validators all over the world, independent of each other, that all trade the same information. And if it's not mined properly, they send it to the node. The node, if it doesn't match what it's supposed to be, it kicks it out. That's why Bitcoin was invented, because it's so hard you can't counterfeit it. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm pissed off at that country over there. I think I'm going to go to war. I don't have any money, but that's okay. Just print me some more money. Oh, cool. I got an extra trillion, man. Let's go buy some crap and devalue the dollar of in everybody else's pocket." That's one thing that why I like Trump. He's wanting to tie the US dollar to Bitcoin. That's why there's talk of Trump making a United States Bitcoin reserve, strategic reserve, so that they can have a reserve, because it's only going up in value, because it ain't just the Federal Reserve. There's the international bank settlements, the IM, whatever they're called, the central bank of central banks. You've got the Swiss central banks, you got the Chinese central banks, you got the Japanese central banks, and everybody's. That's what happened back in August. That Japanese yen carry trade unwind happened. They've got zero interest rates, and they raised their interest rates by like 25 basis points, and that's what people who were borrowing in Japanese yen, when literally with zero interest, investing in U.S. companies, stocks, getting 5 to 20% on their money. Well, the Japanese called all the notes. They decided to raise it up. People who had their money over here were like, crap, I have to go pay my loan now. They started selling stocks like crazy so they could pay back the Japanese, so they could keep good credit with them. And when you sell a bunch of stocks, that's why it wasn't a crash, but it was like a flash crash. Bitcoin and stocks went down. The reason Bitcoin went down is because everyone panic sold. All of a sudden, people are looking, oh, my stocks, my stocks. In the middle of the night, they're watching their stocks. They realized their stocks went down and they needed cash. The reason Bitcoin's so volatile is because you don't have to wait for opening hours to go to the bank. You don't have to wait to open a bank account. Bitcoin is, if you've got your wallet, you got access to your money 24/7, 365 days a year. I don't want to get too deep in that, because I think I'd put everybody to sleep trying to explain Bitcoin. But so, best girl, so why the hell haven't they raised our paychecks? Good questions. Keep asking those. Um, Supply and demand. Labor is supply and demand. Eventually, you know, I don't want to get too much into economics, because I'm not an economics genius. I'm not. I can listen to economists talk about things and I can understand it, but I'm not very good at explaining it. I'm gonna have to plug in. I am 68 minutes in. I'm probably gonna end this pretty soon. Yep, I just low power mode close. I'm gonna talk. I'll chat just a little bit more and I'll let y'all go. Roseanne, can someone help? I overheard my husband tell his assistant he is giving her. Okay, hardy har har. Nope, not falling for it. Brooklyn Calthor, I'm not trying to be rude with this question, but why exactly is weed illegal and why is it bad? It's only considered a Schedule One narcotic, I believe, on the federal level. That happened years ago. Some say it was because they're trying to protect people. Some say there's racial reasons behind it. As of the last, I don't know, 15 years, 10 years, states have individually started legalizing it to varying degrees. So it'd be legal on a state level, but still illegal on a federal level. As far as last time I checked, it is still illegal on a federal level. They just simply don't enforce it because A, they don't have the resources, and B, it's not very popular anymore to do so. There are plenty of documentaries on YouTube. Be careful who you listen to, because, again, like I was talking about earlier, people say things for different reasons. Some people are motivated by greed. Some people are motivated by how they genuinely feel about it. into figuring out who is telling the truth, you got to sort out the liars, like the Harry Potter wizard. What's his name? The guy with the messed up eye. I'm behind on my Harry Potter. You got to sort out the liars. Billy Bear, they don't raise your paycheck because you're not worth more. That may sound rude, but it is the truth. You have to increase your value in order to really increase your marketplace value. Stop with the going into combat. It's very disrespectful. I'm not sure you're talking there. Chai chai weed is a lovely tool to use at certain doses and in certain types, yet it is still seen to be up on the list with other hard drugs somehow. Oh, I don't think it's nearly as hard as alcohol or cocaine. But J.D. Fisher, hey Caleb, remember me? Maybe. Um, I don't know. Depends on how long ago that was. Bear, I get that you can get PTSD, but it is not. But it is not combat. Oh, but it is not combat. I'm not sure you're saying there. Same as using grape as a very specific and not comparable. Um, Chai Chai, I'm not sure. I can't quite follow you there. Chai Chai, Bitcoin is value due to its limited supply, correct, and its value goes up the more that people realize it, correct. It is just a waiting game until eventually billions of humans recognize it and begin to invest and buy, correct. Chai Chai, you're exactly correct. Supply and demand. The more demand goes up, on an item that is on a fixed supply, the only thing that can change when supply goes up is the price has to go up, or else, or else nobody would be able to. Or oh, I hit a button. I lost my train of thought. Nathan Russell says hi. Bear. The only things only have value because of scarcity. Yes, true. Scarcity and uh, demand for those scarce items. If there's no demand, you know, I'm just using a quick example. Well, I'm trying to think of something that has absolutely no value. Just think of anything with no value. If there's no demand, or I mean anything that's scarce, if there's no demand for it, then the price doesn't go up. El Garcia, Caleb, did you invest in Bitcoin? I own a very tiny amount. I'm mostly into what is called altcoins or alternative coins. They're cryptocurrencies that sort of kind of mimic Bitcoin, but they'll never ever be the size of Bitcoin. But so yes, the answer to your question is yes. So God made a farmer, Caleb. You need to start making videos again, pimp. I'm going to. I mentioned this. I've mentioned it every time I go live from my phone like this. I'm in a temporary cabin. I'm supposed to any week now be moving into the other cabin, of which time I'll have a little more room, and I can set up my my computer and have all the a proper. I can do this properly instead of just doing it like a goofball from my phone. Best girl buddy, I think a paycheck is everyone's problem. JD Fisher, remember I asked to be mod one time? Dude, I don't remember. I've had a lot of people ask, and it's nothing personal. I don't unless you're like Mazen or somebody or Dannon that's been here like every single time I've ever gone live for years. I have a hard time remember all the names. Classified as level one or schedule one, maybe so. I don't know. Aqua Elite Yo, uh, Brooklyn Calthrop. Oh, sorry to hear that, best girl. Even if you are valuable, even if you are valuable, your paycheck still don't get a raise. Who do you work for where they actually raise your paycheck? Um, there is a lot of market manipulation, but whether or not you think you're getting what you or should be getting paid, if you're not, the only thing you can do is make yourself better, find a better job. Even better yet, if you can figure out how to be an entrepreneur, and work for yourself, meaning offer a service to somebody that you can compete with other services similar in your area or online, or buy and sell items. Whether what doesn't matter what kind of widget. If you want to sell dinner forks or satellites, if you can buy cheap, mark it up, sell high. If you're able to do that, congratulations, you're self-employed. Chai $25 per hour sounds like a lot, but that's fair pay to live and still be comfortably. So it's insane that the federal minimum wage is so low. See, Chai, this is where I have a disagreement. I just don't agree with federal minimum wages, um, because some jobs just aren't worth what the minimum wage is. Like, if you have the ability to perform brain surgery versus your only ability is to watch a child and keep them, safe. Though that child's life is obviously valuable, nobody's going to pay doctors' wages for babysitting, which is essentially babysitting. And if all you can pay is whatever the minimum wage is, even if it's $25 an hour, who can afford that? That's what makes prices artificially go up. Economics is a hell of a it's. I've always been aware of economics and I knew the basics, but only the last couple of years or last 4 or 5 years since I've been in the crypto market have I really started watching not just crypto markets, but these guys talk about stock markets and the Federal Reserve and other central banks, and it's all interconnected and it's really, really complicated. But if you really want to understand the world around you, then you know start watching. I even watch economists whom I know I've disagreed with on something in the past. Like, I'll give for an example, Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff is the world's greatest Bitcoin hater. He's world famous for hating on Bitcoin since day one, and he's always wrong about it. However, a lot of people won't listen to anything Peter Schiff says because they simply like Bitcoin. At the same time, on everything else, the dude's an Austrian economics genius. On everything else, Peter Schiff is spot on. He's a brilliant man. I met him one time. It was like at a Ron Paul event, long, long time ago, way before I had an understanding of about how the world works like I do now. But so my point is, just because you disagree with an economist, if you start getting into that sort of thing, if I were you, my advice is to continue to listen to them on, because all these YouTubers, there's like David Lynn. I love David Lynn. There's this woman named Daniela Camboni that I watch. There's the Pizzino brothers, Jason, and they're Australian. Jason and I forgot his brother's name. Uh, they're similar, but even they're a little different. Camel Finance. Um, those are just to name a few, but they periodically have guests on and they talk. Some talk TA, which is technical analysis, and some talk about what's in the news, and some kind of mix them both together. And they'll have different economists from various, teachers from universities that'll make the rounds. And just because I know that, okay, well, Peter Schiff, I've already disagreed with him on Bitcoin. He's bringing him on, David Lynn's bringing him on. I'll still go ahead and listen to him, because just because they have an opinion about one particular thing doesn't mean they're wrong about everything else. Kind of like with Trump. Just because I agree that Trump did a good thing by freeing Ross Ulbricht doesn't mean that I agree that how he handled COVIDs back in 2020s or the early 2020, 21, 22. I highly disagree with him. Best girl, because where I am, you can have all the experience and all the skills, and they still don't give a damn about you. In that case, and if in fact that is the case, best girl, if you have all the skills and they don't give a damn about you, that simply means the market in your area for whatever it is you are trained to do is saturated. If everybody is in your area that does whatever line of work it is you do is only their pay is going down, 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 that means the economy is going down. That means there's no demand for your skill set. Let's just say I have no idea what your skill set is, best girl. I'm just going to say hairdresser. I'm just picking a profession. If you're the only gig in town, you can charge whatever you want. If suddenly 100 hairdressers all move in and they're applying for the same job or open a store or a salon right next to yours, you have no choice but to go down on your prices. That means you can't charge as much. That means any employees you may hire, you can't afford to pay them as much. And if you can't afford to pay them as much because everybody has the same skill set, 100 hairdressers are applying for the 10 jobs that are available, it goes down. Y'all, I'm losing my voice, and I think everyone's sick of listening to me chat. I'll chat with y'all later. Y'all take care. Thanks for everyone tuning in, and as soon as I can, I will be setting up my big computer. So enjoyed it. Everyone, try to be kind to each other. I'm talking to myself. Bye.